Live from the Trustmark studios of the Gallo Show. New rules, new funds. Trustmark providing small business loans through their Paycheck Protection Program, better known as PPP. Check it out at trustmark.com/PPP. For more information, member FDIC. The NFIB State Director, Don Starns McVeigh, released the following statement today in HB 1439. Legislation that would phase out the state income tax over 10 years. She says, while our members support the idea of eliminating the state individual income tax, the devil's in the details. So we have Dawn to tell us about those devils in the details. Good morning, Dawn.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing good. We just got an interesting conversation with the Lieutenant Governor. There are major problems with this legislation in the state Senate. According to him, there are very few people that would vote for it as it is today. So tell me a little bit about where you found some of the devils in the details.
Yeah, we, like the Lieutenant Governor said, it's a very lengthy bill. And, when it came out last week, we were really excited to see that the Speaker and the leadership in the House had put a proposal together. We stand by our support for elimination of this income tax, or even a reduction, because we know it helps small business owners. But again, when you get into those details, like a lot of legislation ends up happening with, you see that there are some things in there like increased taxes to farmers and to manufacturing, which Mississippi has an awful lot of, and so we had some real concerns when we got to that part of the legislation and saw that.
Can you hold on for a second? Just put brakes on for 1 second here, because I'm a little bit confused. Because I've heard that businesses don't like this, but I've heard businesses do like that. Thank God I'm just a talk show host, and I'm not a member of the legislature, because I would change my vote 15 times a day when trying to please everybody sometimes. But
right.
The word was that the businesses don't like this because they got to pay more tax, or they have to the taxes that they would have to pay on some things are more. Their operating expenses could be more. Then the other businesses that, are you kidding me? If you've got literally tens of thousands of people, we have, nearly 3 million people in the state of Mississippi, and if a great deal of them are getting money back, then that will increase sales at just about every business around. So I don't know which is which, but you're telling me, as the head of the director of Mississippi and Louisiana's National Federation of Independent Small Businesses, that by and large, your federation, your organization, your group likes the idea of dropping the personal income tax.
We like the idea of, and I'll give you the best example, and it's the most recent that everybody can understand. Mm-hmm. Under the Trump administration, when they passed the Tax Cut and Jobs Act at the federal level, you saw a decrease in the individual income tax rate, and you saw a tremendous boom to the economy, and you saw small businesses growing. You saw them adding employees. You saw them, investing in larger facilities or new locations. It was the impact to the economy was tremendous. And we know that happens because when you drop that individual income tax rate, a lot of small business owners, about 66% of them, file their income taxes as individuals. And so that's why we care both about that individual rate and that corporate rate. It's both of those rates are very important to our members across the board. And so that's why you see that. And so that's the most direct example I can give you of why a lower income tax rate.
I understand that. The problem is when you start picking this over, whether it's Don Starns or the Lieutenant Governor or anybody else, when they start looking at whose gourd is who's been picked on in here, then you start looking and say, well, we'll give you some relief, or we'll do away with that one. And by the time you get through with that, there is no way to supplement the big void you have, whether it's $1.6 billion, as we heard earlier, or 2.4, 2.5, which the Lieutenant Governor just said.
Right, and that's where, when we looked at the increases in the sales tax, the fairly sizable increases in the sales taxes to farmers and manufacturers, for example, we said, oh, well, let's pump the brakes on this and let's look at it a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what you see the Senate doing. I was in Jackson yesterday visiting with legislators and other colleagues, and it's important to look at these things because, as we always go back to, tax policy in a state should never create winners and losers. And this legislation, especially with the farming and the manufacturing particulars in there, really do. And you talk a lot about tax aversion and what will people do. I know the Lieutenant Governor was speaking about what will people buy more or less of. Businesses are going to do what they have to do to stay open, right, and operate. But for example, in Louisiana, farming equipment is not taxed; it does not experience sales tax at all. And so those folks that are on the border probably would, because this is a pretty significant increase, up to 4% sales tax. So, and manufacturing, machinery, and equipment, that is completely excluded in Louisiana from sales tax because, tax policy shows that you should not tax the business inputs. If you need it to make the product or get where you're mm-hmm. going, to get to market, then you shouldn't be taxing that.
I got to tell you, Dawn, that's very significant because to know that they have no taxes at all. I'm not sure about Alabama and Tennessee or Arkansas, but as was mentioned, if I had to drive to get a $500,000 piece of equipment, and I'm anywhere near within 100 miles of Louisiana, I think I would take advantage of that. Certainly, if I didn't have to come back and pay any additional taxes here.
Especially for farmers, they're already experiencing.
Well, wouldn't the same thing go to, let's say, because I've heard truckers and other people, anybody's using some pretty heavy machinery.
Yeah, and on the machinery part, like I said, say you buy a farm tractor mm-hmm. in Louisiana, there is no sales tax on it. If this were to pass, there'd be 4% sales tax on it in Mississippi.
What about bulldozers and things such as that, heavy construction stuff?
Yeah. We have no, that it depends on. That's where Louisiana's tax code does get pretty complicated. Mm-hmm. But there are some things. But if it's specific to farming, so we have exclusions that are specific to farming, and then we have exclusions that are specific to manufacturing, machinery, and equipment. So if you're a manufacturer under those tax codes within the next codes within the department, then you qualify for these exemptions. And so there's different things that you can do. And, we're certainly happy to share that with leadership about what goes on here. And they know how to get that information, here in Louisiana so that they can maybe model some of that because it's actually, we think it's good based on our economy. We have a lot of farmers and a lot of manufacturing here.
Since you're also the director of not only Mississippi, but the Louisiana National Federation of Independent Small Businesses, what's the grocery tax comparison?
We don't tax groceries in Louisiana. There is an exemption on that, on food for home consumption. So right now there's no tax on that.
What's the personal income tax rate?
Well, it's very high. So that's where, so the 6% is your highest rate. And we have our brackets are we have 3 different brackets, and they're a little different from the way y'all mm-hmm. are set up there with the way y'all.
Well, give me an idea of what we're talking about, because ours at 7%. You said yours is at 6%?
6% over 50,000, I believe it is. I think it's the high is the where it kicks.
6% over 50,000 or under?
Yeah, if you're over 50,000, you. I hate to get caught on that.
Okay.
On that specific on, but
right.
it's. I want to say it's 50,000. I want to say the bracket is like 50,000, and you begin getting taxed at 6%.
What is it under? What is it under 50,000?
Let's see. We have a 4%. We have a 4% and a 2%. I believe 12,000 is at 2%.
I just and I don't know what the population of Louisiana is certainly more than the state of Mississippi, but I see some disparities there that are a little bit disturbing, to be honest with you. Can you hold on for a second?
Sure.
Hold on, we'll get more to it because that's very interesting. No taxes at all on groceries in Louisiana. No taxes at all on farm equipment or anything to do with farming, tractors or implements. It's in Louisiana a little amazing. Back more with Dawn coming. Dawn Starns is with us. She is the director of Mississippi, Louisiana of the National Federation of Independent Small Businesses. Dawn, it's a little like you agree that the kids need an allowance, but then you got to figure out how to do it. And there are certain solutions to that, parts of that solution to keep the lights on after you give them an allowance. And that's, you got to shift priorities. You have to find some different sources of income, or you have to cut expenses, or a little of all. So there are solutions to this if, you've decided that you want to give the kids an allowance. And we've just got to find a way to get that done. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, we would definitely agree, and that's why, major tax policy does need a little time to, work through, be looked at, talked about. And, we certainly applaud the governor's, support of it out the gate in January, and Speaker Gunn and leadership's approach to putting a bill forward, to be discussed. And I think that's where we are right now, is we're in that discussion process, and, and things definitely move around as that goes. And I just wanted to circle back from our previous segment. It's 2, 4, and 6 are the rates in Louisiana for income tax.
2, 4, and 6.
And it's at $12,000 to $50,000. And the brackets break down that way.
All right, I'm going to ask you one more, please. If you don't know it, don't feel bad. But I know our gas tax is 18.5 cents, and Fed's is about 18.5. So we're paying about 37 cents a gallon on taxes, combined taxes. Is Louisiana's about the same as far as the local or state taxes on gasoline?
Gas tax in Louisiana is very low. We have been having a huge fight here about, do you raise it to catch up with our roads?
Do you know what it is? Do you have any idea what it is?
I think it's about 10 cents is where I think it is.
Come on, folks. How in the hell are you guys still doing what you're doing in there?
We're way backlogged. Listen, we have major backlog on our roads and bridges. The total is probably a little higher than 10 cents, but I know they're wanting to increase. I guess it's about, I think it depends on how you look at it, but the state part of the tax is pretty low.
Yeah. But you've got a lot of oil and gas taxes coming through. The Louisiana, the state itself, is got a lot more money coming in as far as tourism, i.e. New Orleans and things like that, than we do. You have a bigger tax base as far as it is different. It's different.
It's 20 cents, not 10. But we
whoa!
We have not
the gas tax is 20 cents.
20 cents.
Okay.
The state part of it. Yeah.
I got you. Okay. So it's more than us.
Yeah. That's the problem, is that no one has wanted to raise it, but we have a huge backlog. Several. I'd probably say up to $1 billion. Gas tax, we try to, that's an interesting topic for our members, because they're usually split on the subject depending on where they live.
Yeah.
Because a lot of small business owners in certain areas, major metro areas, the Baton Rouge area, for example, in Louisiana, if you talk to small business owners here, they're for it. You talk to the small business owners in North Louisiana, where they don't have as much traffic and their roads are fine, actually, they don't want it. So it's a very interesting subject. And it's the same thing.
When does the legislature meet in Louisiana?
So we'll start on April 12th, and we'll actually be looking at tax reform here. It's something that our legislature, our leadership has been looking at since we got out of session last year.
Oh, is that right?
And they'll be looking at a fiscal subject-only session, which means we can only take up tax issues.
I think most states in the South are worried about that as far as personal income tax, because they see what's happening in Texas. They see what's happening in Florida. They see what's happening where the states have let these have done away with the personal income tax, and I think and they understand the population and everything else.
Louisiana.
I'm sorry?
It's concerning for Louisiana to have Mississippi looking at it. So it does make the legislature come in and look at how do we become more competitive, and how do we have a tax structure that works for everyone, and again, doesn't pick winners and losers. And I think the other part of this conversation is an important part of it, which is at the federal level. Again, when you look at the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, which was passed, that for the personal side is not permanent, and there are some other pieces of it that are not permanent, like the expensing, business expensing piece. Those are important parts that at the state level, if we can look at policy in both states, as far as I'm concerned, that are going to really help that, especially if it does go away, because we can't always count on D.C. to do the right thing, as we all know.
That's true.
So if business owners can count on their state to do right by them for tax policy, then that will create a lot of opportunity. And so we believe the opportunity is there for legislatures in both states to come in and do some really positive things. And again, the Senate, in Mississippi, I get that they have some major concerns. They have reason to have those major concerns. And I appreciate the fact that the Speaker and leadership in the House put forth a bill to look at, and maybe we do just look at it and figure it out.
If it's good for our small businesses, we need to do that, because our whole building block and the fabric of the state is made up of small businesses, and we count on them. Let me ask you this, because we know that one state's legislative actions influences a neighboring state. We know that. We can go back to the days of passing casinos here in the state of Mississippi. But what effect on the upcoming April legislative session, as far as bills, do you think our passage of medical marijuana will have on Louisiana?
We have that here already.
You already have medical marijuana?
Yes.
I didn't know that. I didn't know
we
that.
do. It was a several year, like all things in Louisiana, it takes unfortunately about 3 years to pass major changes. So that's why we've been pushing centralized sales tax here that we don't have.
Do you get the taxes from that?
Yeah. Yes. Well, yes. There's so the medical marijuana has the schools grow it, and then it's a pretty complicated process, but we put it with LSU and Southern to be the growers. You can't just grow; not just anyone can grow it, and then only.
When you said schools, Perez raised his eyebrows. They didn't mean high schools, Perez. They meant college.
They meant college.
It wasn't.
She
high
said Southern.
Yes.
She said Southern and LSU, so that's pretty good.
Yes, I should say universities, not schools. But
I understand.
Our universities, since they're agriculture universities.
Do you have any idea how much money they've made off of it as far as taxes? And I'm asking you things that you.
I don't know yet. I don't know yet, because this is not our wheelhouse, so we don't get too far into that.
When did you guys pass that? Was it a couple of years ago?
I want to say it was about 3 years ago, and it's been or maybe it might have been 2, but I think this will make 3 years.
So you're on track now for the next year to hear the clamor of moving over to recreational. Is that already a buzz there?
Right. I don't think that'll be happening here anytime soon. But we certainly have, because right now we're still dealing with the once you put that in place, there are so many different facets of it, right? There are a lot of folks who are trying to open, different shops, retail shops, locations that sell the hemp and the CBD and all of the different byproducts.
Are they members of the National Federation of Independent Small Businesses?
We have a lot of those small retailers are members of ours, yes.
Okay. So you're not going to be speaking negatively as far as where the problems were with businesses.
No, we look. Our thing is, create an economy that's open and gives the folks the ability to get out there and do what they do and do what they love. I mean, free market economy is what we're all about. So
you grow it there. You have to grow it. You have to sell it. You have to grow it there too. You can't bring it in from elsewhere, right?
Yes, in Louisiana, you do. Like I said, the medical marijuana that's actually prescribed comes from they went out to bid. The schools, the universities went out to bid. They said there's growers that are working in concert with the universities, and then it's permitted to like 10 pharmacies in the state that can sell it. So it's very, very controlled.
Do you have specific flavors there that are like Cajun or gumbo? Buds.
Stop. Just stop it.
If somebody hasn't
yourself.
figured that out yet, I'm sure they will.
some crawfish stuff, some mud bugs.
Stop it.
Dawn, it's been a pleasure. I thank you. You've done great.
Lizzie cracked her up this morning.
I've asked you questions that you shouldn't really know. So,
well, look, I try to know a little bit about everything, right?
Well, you've done a good job. You've done a good job. So, what are your hopes are that they either find some type of bill to work together, or maybe put this off to it in the study committee and come back next year?
Yeah, I mean, look, we leave it to the wisdom of the legislature at this point. I think they're clear on where we stand. I know we've tried to get that message out to folks, and what we want to do is ask them to be considerate of the fact that sometimes in the process you have to kind of back off of things and relook at it.
We will see.
We like the idea of Yeah.
Dawn, it's been a pleasure. Always good talking to you. Thank you for spending the time with us.
Thank y'all.
You got it. Dawn Starns, who is the director of the state of Louisiana, the state of Mississippi, and the National Federation of Independent Small